Hello, and welcome to another episode of Neutral Side Hotel Podcast. I'm your host, Borat. Coming up later on the show, we'll be hurting people. And welcome to another episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel Podcast. I am your host. My name is Gabe Cook, and coming up a little bit later on the show, we'll be having a lovely chat with the founder of the School of Booze, Jane Peyton. And then we'll be tasting a cider from Ascension and sharing the best of our Instagram caption contests. Lots of funnies coming up, I hope. But first, well, for once, I'm going to hand over to Grant straight away to reel us in with something rather fun. Over to you, Grant.
Bit of a clue there. I was alerted to well, in most worlds it would be a non-cider related news story, but at Neutral Cider Hotel, the fact that tackle shop sales are soaring in the UK as the country catches the fishing bug in lockdown.
Wow.
So clearly sales of microphone headsets have gone through the roof at tackle shops.
Everyone's getting on the podcasting as well.
I bet the numbers are actually just Caledonian Cider Factory. It's just the one. But no one's bought anything from the tackle and bait shops in so long. They're like, record sales are through the roof this year. Oh, we returned it later that day.
Well, it's probably him just going back because they keep breaking. So he has to keep buying another one. You're like, Ryan, maybe go to like Maplin or order off a big online retailer. But I thought that was a particularly entertaining news piece. In relation to, I should explain for those who don't want to go all the way back to episode 2. Am I right?
2 or 3, yeah.
Why would they not to? Why would they not want to?
Shall I just encourage people to do that instead of explaining why I've just shared a news piece about tackle shops? Yeah, go for it. Go back to listen to episode 2. Also gets a mention. What also gets a mention is Wix. We didn't talk about cider much, did we?
This is just like a weird shop advert somehow. Wrangled in. We're trying to regenerate the small high street. That's the goal of the Neutral Cider Hotel.
I know. I've promoted Wix and tackle shops more than Able at this point.
Yeah, that's not such a good. Dare I say that something seems a bit fishy about your mindset and thinking here, Grant, in terms of who you're promoting.
I'd say what's fishier is going to a tackle shop to buy a headset to be on a podcast.
That's true.
But yeah,
true.
So that's my week in news.
Well, we're not one to cast aspersions, and I'm never one normally fishing for a compliment. And sometimes I do fly fish in the face of public opinion.
Opinion? Oh no! Also, I bet I've not heard a live drummer that much in years. Grant, do they get flashbacks to touring? That was just a fucking drum roll.
I know. Well, I'm just disappointed I didn't get asked to do that role. You've got a drummer here, and you've decided, I'm going to download a sound off the internet. Thanks, Scott.
I recorded that from a Frightened Rabbit band practice, though. So it is you,
right? Okay, yeah. That's one of the early demos. That one, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Didn't make the cut. Yeah.
Maybe we should have a show whereby all of the sound effects we have to control via live instruments or erstwhile noises. So Grant could be just sat on the kit, just ready to roll for that potential one occasion in, 2 hours of recording whereby it's necessary.
He's going to be really bad audio for him vocally because he's got a drum mic, room mic set up, and then just one perfect snare hit over 2 hours.
Yeah. I'll have multiple snares. You've got to, I'll have to depend on the joke as to whether I use the piccolo or the Black Beauty, or another snare drum that nobody
Ooh,
knows.
we've got into drum talk here at Neutral Cider Hotel.
Can you hear how excited I am?
Come and get snared by Grant Hutchison at Drum Talk.
Well, maybe we'll have an opportunity to do something like that if we ever do a live event.
Ooh.
Oh, Carp DM sees the day. Lovely.
All right, Brent.
Oh, God.
All right, that'll do for our opening segment. Now let's see what's happening in the news. And now, here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time for this week's news. Martin, will you kick us off, please?
Yeah, bit of a somber one, but I think we have to address it. I think it's only responsible. But Rat Magnet on Instagram, if anyone hasn't seen, Brienne, she's been posting basically stories of people in the industry in craft beer in the US, UK, like mainly US, but about sexism in the industry. And it's just, I mean, it's an onslaught of eye-opening stories. It's quite harrowing. And trigger warning if you've not, if before you go on it, if that kind of thing is upsetting to you as well. But what was astounding is they repeated, like, so the details change a little bit, but there's just, it's a wave upon wave. And she's now got highlights on her page of it. But I mean, we're up to part 8 and it's pretty intense, but I just felt that we needed to actually discuss it a bit because I know Cider has problems and everything, but it just seemed like, is it comparable in sort of scale of industry? Like, how do you guys feel the industry is over here, and kind of what can we do about it?
It's a really tough one, as we've discussed many times. Our position as privileged straight white men gives us just an automatic opportunity to, certainly from my perspective, to be less accustomed to it. But it takes brave people such as Rat Magnet to shine a light on it. And yeah, just the sheer scale and vociferousness of the response, it's quite overwhelming, as you say. Most of it, almost exclusively, I think, is beer. Cider is just different in its nature in terms of fewer urban places, more kind of rural, and not that means that there isn't the opportunity for misogyny and sexism or any kind of abuse in that kind of context. But at the moment, it seems less prevalent for cider, and whether that's just the sheer number of makers and outlets, or whether there is some form of differentiation, I'd like to think the latter, but it's quite probably more the former. And what can we do? Well, we can just ensure that it's being spoken about. And this is the opportunity and the platform that we've got. And just ensure, and it's quite interesting. There were lots of conversations at CraftCon as well. Helen Ann Smith and Ren Navarro did a great session about diversity and inclusion, and the Three Counties Cider and Perry Association's statement as well.
Now on YouTube as well, in case you weren't there. It's all been put up, so definitely check that out. It's worth it.
Yeah, really, really good session. And also, Helen Ann Smith and Rachel Norder at Birham are also organising a Common Ground conference to act as a space to discuss these topics. So there, out of all of these challenging actions, there are positive actions and endeavours to try and address this and to make change. And I think that's as good and as much as we can do right now, is just to address and to make change.
Definitely, yeah. I think as you said, Gabe, it's very easy for us to sit here and say, "Oh, I don't think there's a problem with it in cider." But as you said, three straight white male people, we might not see it, even if we're not a part of it, which I don't think we are, and contributing to it in a negative way. But from my perspective, even in an industry that's not necessarily connected to cider, but in music, my experience with cider has been so far that conversations happen quite openly and fairly quickly after, if there are any incidents about around sexism, misogyny, a lack of diversity or inclusivity. It seems that people are quick to call that out, and whether that's just the fact that cider is not as far on in its journey as beer, in the time that we live in now, the people are speaking out more about it, but it seems to me to be a more inclusive space than beer, and that's not to say that people aren't trying to change it in that world too, and like you said, Birham trying to cross all drinks industries to try and make that change with this Common Ground conference, which by the way anyone can I think sign up for who's in the hospitality industry or the drinks industry, if you go onto their Instagram. So yeah, I feel that cider's is in a good place, I guess because we're nearer the start of the journey in terms of cider's profile, and that those issues are being addressed now, and they're being addressed head on by everyone, male, female, transgender, non-binary people are talking about it.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I kind of resented was looking on Twitter and seeing the old not all men kind of response, and you're like, it's not the point. And if you do see it as a guy, call it out. It isn't a case of just it's not good enough to just sit on the sidelines and not be sexist. You have to kind of intervene when you witness it. One thing that I saw working in pubs all the time, anytime you had female members of staff, customer would ask about a certain beer and they give them an answer. No question, like literally just give them the correct answer. And then they would always ask me or another guy, they go, sorry, can you help here? And it was like, no, she knows. Like, but in my head, I'm like, I not found it funny, but you're like, I'm just confused that you don't get that she could learn the same information. I don't learn or know more. We've heard the same story and we've both retained that knowledge. That's not male or female. That's like are you listening? I've always found it flabbergasted. And just seeing it online, all the stories, you're just like, I can see them happening in pubs and bars that I've like worked in, drank at. Like that's the horror like element of it, is it's just so normalized. And I think the more that we just speak up and actually address it, the closer we're going to get to a point where we can knock it on the head.
And Martin, you mentioned there about it not being enough just to sort of stand by and for men to be calling this out. And actually, this is something that was positioned and we were all reached out to by the wonderful Taz, Girl with the Cider Review, as part of the sort of the next step, part 3, I think, of her No Apologies campaign, where she reached out to male members of the sort of cider making and cider advocacy community to ask us if we would be willing to pledge some, a commitment of support and to call this out. So if you head to Taz, Girl with the Cider Review, her Instagram page, you'll be able to see the pledges, the commitment of support from Grant, Martin and myself, and a huge number of other people from across the UK and the US committing their continued support to the No Apologies campaign, with that commitment to be calling out any sexism and misogyny that we may individually see. So once again, progress is on the way. We're trying to affect change. All right, that's going to do it here for our news section. Now, let's get on to our chat with Jane Peyton. The Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time for this week's interview, and we've got one of the shining lights of alcohol education in the UK joining us at the hotel bar. Through her business, the School of Booze, Today's guest provides fun and informative sessions delving deeper into the wonderful world of drinks from a sensory and historical perspective. The winner of many accolades, including a Lifetime Achievement in Beer Award from UK MPs and, most importantly, the UK's very first Pomelier by me. Checking into the hotel this week, it's School of Booze founder Jane Peyton.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
Jane, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Professor Gabe.
Thank you.
Oh, come on. Don't stroke his ego like that straight away. Jeez.
No.
Professor Emeritus, or honorary, should I say. I'm not actually a
author
professor.
himself, Gabe. How are you doing,
Yeah.
Gabe?
It's like when I pretend to be Dr. Gabe, like MD, and giving out actual medical advice. I am not a registered doctor, everybody, or a professor. So, Jane, welcome to the hotel. Absolutely fantastic to have you and to see you as well. I think the last time I saw you was at the Imbibe Personality of the Year Awards in it would have been like sort of February of 2020. So just before things sort of fell apart, and my abiding memory of that evening is that neither of us won anything. So Jane, so you are the founder of the School of Booze. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what it is and how it came to be that you started this enterprise? Because you haven't always worked in the alcohol industry, have you?
No, I haven't. I started working professionally in the alcohol business about 12 years ago. I founded the School of Booze, which is a combination of things. It's corporate events, it's educating people about alcoholic drinks. I also write, I do a bit of broadcasting, a bit of training as well for brand owners and pub staff. So it's all sorts of various things, but it is all connected with alcohol, advocating for alcohol. So some people sometimes say, oh, well, you educate people about alcohol, and they think that I'm saying don't drink alcohol or beware of alcohol. But it's not that. It's celebrating alcohol and getting the best out of it and learning about it so you can really enjoy it and explore it. So that's what the School of Booze is. And I started about 12 years ago, having spent a lifetime in pubs and drinking as a amateur, and then realised that I could start a business doing something that I really wanted to do, which was to educate people, but also in a way or in a subject that really interested me. And I realised that if I did a Venn diagram of what I was good at, what I liked, how I could make money out of it, then the middle of that Venn diagram was found the School of Booze, which I did. So started School of Booze about 12 years ago.
And was there a specific drink that you can maybe trace it all back to that made you go, well, I could get paid to be surrounded by this drink?
No, actually, it was seeing Ina Sharples, who was an old battle axe on Coronation Street. It was seeing her as a child. I was watching Corras and I saw Ina Sharples in the Rover's Return in the pub. She was drinking a bottle of milk stout. Now, it was black and white TV, so the contrast of the dark beer with that very white, creamy head was really apparent. She was in the pub, she was chatting with her friends, and they were having fun. And I looked and I thought, oh, what's that she's drinking? So I noticed what she was drinking. But more than anything, I noticed that she was in the pub having fun and chatting and gossiping. And she actually is my spirit animal, because she made me think, I want to be in a pub and I want to drink whatever she's drinking. I was 8, by the way. And lo and behold, here I am a few years later, and I sit in pubs and I drink milk stout. So that was it. No, beer was always something that interested me. But the first drink I ever had, and this is true, I'm not just making this up because we're on a cider podcast, was as a child, Christmas dinner, and my parents used to let us as children have a tiny little glass of woodpecker cider, which Gabe and the Britons here will remember that it was very low alcohol, sweet, fizzy. And so cider was the first alcoholic drink I ever had. And I associate Christmas dinner now with cider, and I can't have Christmas dinner unless I have cider. Now, of course, it's great quality cider, and it's made by Tom Oliver or Little Pomona or Pilton or, one of the small independents. But my first one was woodpecker cider, so that's got me into alcohol. That and communion wine.
Oh,
Yes, excellent.
well, you said that kind of image as a child looking at this woman in the pub was quite like a big one for you. But how have you felt in lockdown without those pubs and that access to them?
It's been really hard, hasn't it? Particularly as my professional career depends on pubs, but also my social life. And it's the greatest pleasure I have in life, like many people, is going to the pub with your friends or with your family, being in that pub milieu and not necessarily drinking even, but just being in that social space and looking around and enjoying the atmosphere and having something to eat or checking out new drinks or flirting with somebody or checking them out. All the things that we do in the pub just cease to exist. And I've really blooming missed it, really missed it. It's been fantastic having Zoom and doing Zoom drinks, but you can't replace the atmosphere of the pub. And I drink a lot of beer, and in a pub, I would have a lovely pint of cask ale, usually. And you can't have that at home. You can have a can of beer or a bottle, and even if it's bottle conditioned, lovely, but it's not the same as a pint of cask ale. Seeing them pull it and serve it with that beautiful head and the whole theatre of what they do there in a pub, I've really missed that. And so going back to pubs has been blooming fantastic.
I wanted to touch on, Jane, the fact that your business is called the School of Booze, and booze is quite an interesting word because I think today it's often maybe slightly used in a slightly pejorative term. It's like you're boozed up or you're boozy, or maybe I don't even know whether younger generations know about booze. What is it about booze that you like? And if you do, what's the etymology of the word booze?
The word booze, as you say, can be pejorative, but it's the only word that describes it's a collective noun for alcoholic drinks. So there is no other word. So school of alcoholic drinks, no. School of, because it's more than just beer or wine or cider. So basically the only choice I had was booze. But I love that word booze anyway. And used in the right context, it's great. But also it makes people laugh. So the people I want as my clients, so the corporate event people or the business groups that hire me, the ones that laugh at the name of my business are the people that I want as my clients.
They're in. Yeah.
Now, booze is a word that isn't understood in non-English speaking countries. So when I used to get a lot of incoming business groups from Spain and Norway and all over the world. Oh, actually, they would know it in Norway. So in non-English speaking countries, they didn't know what booze was. And so it wasn't an issue to them. The British companies that hire me because they quite like that it's called the School of Booze, and they always giggle. Yes, I mean, it can be a bad word, and I know that I've probably lost clients because my business was called School of Booze, or that people didn't take it seriously, but I wouldn't have wanted them as clients anyway. The etymology of the word isn't sure, actually, but it could be a Dutch word, boezen or boyzen. Nobody really knows. It's one of those words that people say, oh, it's this, and some people say it's that, and nobody really knows. I think we need Susie Dent from Dictionary Corner to come and enlighten us, don't we?
She's next week's guest, actually. No, she's not really. I'm only joking. No.
Boozy Dent.
Well done, Grant. Now, I didn't know this about you, Jane, but a little read of your website reveals that you're obviously a woman of many talents, and one of those is music. You've co-written a song. Is this right? You could form a Cider mega group with Grant possibly, and anybody, me on Triangle. I mean,
well, you'd need to audition, Gabe.
I beat the audition.
Don't stick yourself in there for a Triangle before
it's not
Jane
automatic.
and I have discussed who's joining our
complex instrument.
band.
It's the triumvirate of shapes.
No, actually, you're right, Grant, because it's often...
Jane, we need to look after
the
ourselves
triangle
here.
is often the one instrument that you remember. Cor anglais, what? Double bass, viola. No, but you remember the triangle, don't you?
Well, exactly. Because the triangle is
Bassoon,
actually extremely loud. So maybe maybe it is well suited to you, Gabe.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I always notice the triangle.
And you do always notice Gabe at events as well, don't you?
But yeah, I've written 2 songs, Gabriel.
2.
Oh, 2 songs.
2. I conceived and wrote them. I have a friend who's a composer. There's one about London, and there's one about beer, actually. And the London one is... I wrote the words, by the way, and she wrote the music. But she also, this was the first song I wrote, she also said, right, this is how I want the structure of the verse to be. I want line A, B, and F to have a rhyme at the end. So the same word, the same rhyme word. And then C and D, they need to have a rhyme in the middle of the sentence and at the end of the sentence. It was like, oh my goodness. I do write books, by the way, so I'm a wordsmith. But I've never written a song before. And it was fantastic discipline on how to rhyme, how to tell a story in a song that was rhyming with all these different lines and to structure it. It was such a good discipline. I loved doing that. And that was my London song. To the greatest city on earth, give a cheer. Whether you're a pauper or a peer, and salute your Cockney friend as they choose to recommend the finest place to take you for a beer. Everyone, I must raise a glass to a place that is the top of its class. So let's celebrate the city with the chorus of our ditty and be proud of London town. And then you go into the chorus, and then you've got several verses.
That's not
town.
the chorus. No, that's catchy as hell.
No, that's one of the verses. But the proudest one I ever did was in that song, and it was rhyming post meridian. No, prime meridian. It's on the prime meridian and makes us all go giddy on our pride in London town.
Very good.
See what I did there?
Very
Rhymed
good.
prime
Very
meridian with
See what I
giddy
did
on.
there?
You see what?
Thank you very much.
See what I did there? Genius.
Hear what I did there.
Oh, God.
From one author to another, Jane. That's some excellent wordcraft there. And obviously, Modern British Cider is coming out later in the year. Very much looking forward to sharing that with you. This is primarily a vehicle for us to do gratuitous plugs, Jane. So if you've got any books or anything imminently coming up that you want to,
I'll get the triangle
to do
Oh,
so.
yes, actually,
get the triangle already.
Yes, I just haven't. Get the triangle out. By the way, when you were crowdfunding the book,
Yes,
crowdfunded it, mate. Didn't I? 15 quid went your way onto camera
cheers,
anyway.
mate.
So I should be getting a copy. So this is my latest book, The Philosophy of Beer. This came out about, I think, 2 months ago. It's a history book, beer, so it's a short, concise. I quite like that clunk.
Yeah.
And then last year, I wrote 2 books last year. That's The Philosophy of Gin.
Oofed.
Oh wow, you are philosophizing about a whole heap of different drinks.
A whole heap. And then, seeing as I'm plugging everything, so last year during lockdown, I finished a new website. So I've got downloadable courses in beer, cider, and wine.
Whoa! Time out. Hello, Jane. We seem to be entering some kind of Star Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader type scenario. No, that's not best. A bit rude, isn't it? In terms of master and learner, you were my very first Pamelier. You were the UK's very first Pamelier. You were excelling at the first.
I was.
And now you're. I mean, part of me is proud. Part of me is furious, utterly furious, but mostly proud of you providing certainly, excellent grade training to people who want to learn more about cider. So I'll let it slide for now.
No, the courses that I do are very much entry and intro. So it's for people who don't want to be accredited. They're not accredited courses. They're just a real foundation of knowledge, and they're not taking away any of your business, Gabe. It's aimed at a different market.
It's like in The Wire when they step up to the corner and they're like, "You're on our turf."
Martin, are you liking Jane and I two crack dealers? Is that what you just did there?
Yeah,
It's not quite the same.
I think cider education is as addictive as crack cocaine.
That's right, Martin. You nailed it there, and you can learn so much more about it in ciderology and modern British cider. And Jane, is the philosophy of cider going to come up sometime soon? Is this next in the series?
Well, I did mention it to the publisher because they asked me to submit some proposals about another thing. A couple of other things, and I said, "How about a cider book?" So they've asked me to think about it. So let's hope. Now that lockdown is being released, they might start commissioning again. They stopped commissioning for a while because it's the British Library, and most of their books are sold in their gift shops, or they're sold into bookshops, and they're very much gifty books. The £10 gift books, really, this series that I write for. And because nobody was going to bookshops or doing an impulse purchase, because these sort of titles are very much like, ooh, the philosophy of gin. Oh, I know my dad would love that. Oh, the philosophy of beer. Oh, I'm going to buy that for my mum and that sort of thing. As well as people buying for themselves, they're buying for other people. So the publisher hasn't been commissioning as much recently. But hopefully they will, and hopefully cider will be one of them.
Oh.
It's cider's time to shine right now, and with my book and with your book and a book from the wonderful author James Crowden also coming, a terrifyingly award-winning author releasing a book about cider just like about 2 weeks before mine comes out. Yay, hooray. Anyway, but that's okay. It's not gonna put me off. So this next period, it's cider's time to shine, and Jane, we're gonna be on it. We're gonna be making it happen, aren't we? This is going to be the way. Then
we're going to be on the wave, but we'll be not on the wave. We'll be ahead of the wave. But just like with beer books, there is no end to the people who will buy beer books.
Yeah.
And with cider books, because there haven't been many cider books, it's brilliant that two are coming out within 2 weeks, yours and James's, because people will buy both of them.
I very much
love
hope
both of them.
that I wish I had the same optimism as you, Jane. But anyway, Jane, thank you so much for spending some time joining us here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. Hope you have enjoyed the experience and the decor and the pints as much as we have. Thank you very much. And for anybody who's listening who wants to learn more about Jane Peyton and the School of Booze, where should they head to, sort of, if websites and social media handles?
Yes, so website is schoolofbooze.com. Just put it in a search engine, it'll come up. Twitter at School of Booze, and that's my main social media handle. I do have Instagram, but I don't really use it very much. School.of.booze. And then, Twitter's my place.
Twitter's your place.
Because I can write things, I'm a wordy sort of person.
You're a worder.
But no, it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to meet you all, and thanks so much for inviting me on. It's been good fun.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure's all ours, Jane. Thank you so much. And Wassail, we'll see you in a pub, hopefully, sometime in the not too distant future.
Wassail.
And now here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time for this week's tasting. And not only are we going to be doing some tasting, but we're going to also have a little review of the caption competition of Lovely Jay and Lovely Grant, looking lovely in their lovely shop, but so lovely and hello-esque were they, looking glowingly into each other's eyes, that there was just a caption competition that was just being begging for. And we put it out on the socials, and it just happened to be the most popular post I think we've done thus far. 213 likes, 40 odd comments. We're going to have a little rundown of some of the best and maybe even some of the worst. But first, let's check out the cider. This is coming from Ascension, which is down in West Sussex. And this cider has been made, the specific thing about it is that it's a single variety russet, which is really, really cool, nice and aromatic. But also it's been fermented with a very specific yeast called Voss Kveik or Kveik or Kveik or Kveik.
It is South African. Kveik.
That's right. Kveik. And so this is it's a wild yeast strain, but one that is managed and cultured. So a bit like a sourdough, and you sort of pass it and you keep it alive and you pass it sort of down, and it's used for brewing beer in Norway. But this is the very first Kveik fermented cider I've ever had. How would we describe the nature of the label here?
Just straight up. Definitely.
For once, Martin isn't being, melodramatic or that's actually a pretty accurate
I'll tell you what it is.
Noise.
It is nails. You'll never be one of us. That is exactly.
That makes me sad. Makes me very nervous.
Is that a 14-episode callback? Yes, it is. But yeah, no, I mean, divisive to say, but I think fucking lean into it. It's fun as fuck. It looks fun.
That's it.
It's fun.
I feel like like
Do we need to describe it?
It's like pure black metal. Like it's like just illustrated black metal album cover. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, and it's I mean I don't like it. I wouldn't pick this art for anything to represent myself, but I feel like it represents the cider and the person who made it brilliantly, and that's what's great about it.
Well,
yeah.
As it happens, Matt, who is the cider maker, he's an interesting guy because he's 6'9". That's quite tall.
No, he's not.
And
what?
He is.
Yeah,
he's 6'9".
That's why he flies around in a helicopter.
That's right.
The helicopter. That's right. Yeah.
One without rotor blades, of course. It's called a hot air balloon. That's right. So Jane said he's an aeronaut. I'm not sure whether that is maybe it is the right term. I don't know. Anyway, the guy who looks like he's just popped out the ground in a sort of zombified form doesn't actually look particularly like Matt. But it was obviously the rest of his.
You said that like Grant said it did.
I know, that's not what I was suggesting.
Oh, sorry. Did I infer that?
You meant as in it's clearly
Did
someone's passion.
No, I inferred that.
Yeah, I got that Grant was saying it's someone who's passionate about this, and it's quite an extreme choice, but it suits their tastes. Whereas you've gone, now, Grant, he doesn't look like a zombie.
He might be 6'9". But he might be 6'9".
But he's not a death zombie. Yeah.
Oh my god.
What I meant to say then, rather than just saying that, was that this is a step away from the rest of the branding from the Ascension range, which plays upon the hot air balloon theme normally. So this is definitely something that's a bit special, a little bit different, and this is a cider that's special, a bit different. It's really interesting.
Can you get the link on the picture to what it is? It's Norwegian black metal, and it's a Norwegian yeast strain. So Kveik,
there it is.
In terms similar to Birum being yeast in Welsh, Kveik was just yeast in Norwegian.
Is it?
And yeah. So it's odd. You get wet and dry yeasts. So wet, you kind of have to pitch and maintain, and you reuse kind of thing, and you keep it live and going. But dried, similar to red yeast, sourdough, and all this, and commercial little packet yeast. Dried keeps them going longer, so you can keep them going down. And this was originally passed as it was the first kind of example of a dried yeast years and years and years and years ago. But it's a crazy one because it's, in beer terms, it's a workhorse. It ferments real quick. It works in about 3 days. It works.
Quite hot, isn't it?
Whoa.
Yeah. So I got the temperatures. I wrote this down. I wasn't going to risk it, but 25 to 40 degrees Celsius. So that's 77 to 104 in Fahrenheit. It attenuates incredibly quickly. So that means it eats the sugar. It just burns through it and makes alcohol. And it's incredibly ridiculous with flocculation as well, which is when they all collect together. So instead of being hazy in the product and loose, they all bung together. So you end up with this clear liquid. So he's always used wild yeasts for all his ciders, except for this. So I wanted to see how it fares up to the natural workhorse of cider apples and the wild yeast that take a lot of time, and this absolute black metal bastard. What are we thinking on the aroma?
I'm getting a little hint of menthol or something. There's something really quite sort of high or trebly almost. I don't really know another way to describe it.
Aniseed.
I was going to say sort of stewed fruit as well, like sort of plum or something like that, as well as having that sort of slightly lighter, spicier kind of fruity, something a little bit deeper and richer as well, but so clean and so fresh. Fascinating. I've never smelled anything like it, I think.
Also, the acid in it, I was expecting it to be way sharper. But talking about sharp, let's switch it up. Let's fuck this game up. Let's go into the actual captions. Look, he's put a little surprise turn on you guys. So, option A, do you want the good? I've wrangled 8 of the best of the 58 in the end. Or do you want the bad?
I want to explore the bad first. Let's end on a high.
Okay. So these are, we've got good and bad, winners, and just pieces of shit. So starting off the pieces of shit category. Cider says, Eve is back. Watch out. This is an apple in disguise. So they're saying that your partner is a temptress that ruins everything on a biblical scale, I believe. That's how I read it.
I wasn't sure how to take that one at all.
I read quite a lot of them and went, I think I know what you mean, but also, even if you do mean that, what are you doing? Next up is Fraser Alexander, and they said, and with one simple flick of the wrist, Jay wasn't smiling anymore, which just...
I mean, what is he saying about me, and what have I done?
I think you're flicking the drink over your lovely wife. Well, it just looks like, like just throwing your drink at the mother of your
in
child.
her face, or
that's. I mean, you can see why it's in the awful pile.
Again, out of context, pretty sinister. Because there's no mention of the drink or the glass. There's no mention of the drink or the glass. So
it is just erring towards domestic violence, possibly there. It's not,
No.
Can you imagine them listening in? Like, they thought they've got this lovely, funny thing, and they listen in, they're like, oh, I'm in the bad pile? Domestic abuse? No.
Yeah. You're in the sinister as fuck pile.
It's all about the nuance of these things.
That doesn't always come across.
And in the written word,
I think we've had phones and social media long enough that you cannot use that as an excuse anymore to be like, does this come across well when I text it? No,
just don't do it if it doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Read it back to yourself.
Wow. Sarl likes stuff says that Perry's gone straight through, hasn't it? Shall I get the mop? Which I just who is saying that to who in that relationship?
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing.
You got to give points because I'm not going to discuss that right now. We'll get Jay on next week. We can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
You just open a shop.
Give him points for at least doing callbacks and show references, though. Come on.
Yeah, the mop and bucket, but the mop is because Grant has explosive bottles, not explosive diarrhea. So I just
this is true.
Now Andrew Masura says cider duty was introduced for the first time in 1643, an equivalent rate to beer, but was the subject of a notable parliamentary controversy in 1763.
No.
No. Well, no, I disagree.
I like that
totally
one.
Yeah, Martin.
I like that one.
No.
You just don't appreciate
that was one of my favourites.
Am I bumping that up to good? Are you joking? No, because no relevance to the thing. It's not saying what are they saying. It just says caption this.
No, but again, it's referencing like episodes where we talk about duty and then like correct ourselves and go, oh, fucking duty's boring as shit. I like that one. I thought that was good.
This is somebody who actually listens to the show and who actually knows something about cider. This is like 12% of
And you don't
all of
want to
the cider
upset
people
those
in the
people.
UK. Let's not alienate them too much if we can.
And just because Gabe and I could probably do a whole episode on duty and taxes and have a great time, you'd be sitting there stewing your face. So
Yeah, that's right.
that's
I'll tell
in
you
the good part. Andrew, well done.
Andrew, I'm sorry. Thanks for listening. Fuck off. So I guarantee this one isn't in your good pile. This one's from Rich Likes to Play. You'll never guess where I left it.
I don't know.
I read it and I was like, I have got this right, haven't I? I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah.
Left. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's even there's not even a conversation or discussion around
Okay,
that.
there we go. Well done.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
Or not well done.
There's one more, and this is from the Only Togethers. I'm wearing your knickers.
Well. Oh, yeah.
So let's drink the cider. Let's get back to the good stuff, and then we'll do the actual winners, which Andrew is now included in. Fuck it. Yes. So
Oh yeah, straight to the top of the leaderboard, Andrew.
let's talk about the fact that on the back of the can, Grant correctly pointed out, which Gabe and I didn't even bother to read, the temperature: drink cool and drink ambient. We've got both. I've got both open. Have you guys tried both, or have you tried one or the other?
I've been on the chilled, but it's actually opening up quite quickly. It's warming up quite quickly, and yeah, it's giving a huge amount of sort of palate weight. Is that just me, and a smoothness, a lactic, almost like a malted kind of character, like unfermented malt, like almost like a Ovaltine, malted drink, sort of milky kind of thing going on. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, well, I had at the start of the show, at the top of the show, I'd been drinking the ambient can, and then now have the chilled can, and that's I was saying the chilled one tasted so much more lean and higher and sharper, and now it's kind of warming up, like you say. There's the kind of body and depth, and like there's just some real soft tannins in there, right? I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. Right?
I mean, russet. I presume it would be like an Egremont russet or something. It's not like a classic or West Country tannic apple variety, but it does have some structure to it.
Yeah,
it's one of those rusted apples that does have a bit of grippiness in there, and it definitely comes to the fore in this. It's also 8.3%.
Yeah, I did not get the booze at all.
No, absolutely not. It carries the booze spectacularly well.
One thing I will say though, I'm blending the temperatures, and I mean it's just ruined the whole experience for me. Can't tell what's cold or yeah, it doesn't work. It's not like different varieties. I've just made one lukewarm. But for me, I think the crushability of that chilled one, it's quite refreshing with the more pronounced acidity. But as you drink it slower and it's more ambient, I just can't believe how different a beast it is. And it isn't one is bad and one is good. They're both just so different.
For me, the most important thing about this is that somebody has been playful, experimental with trying a yeast. It's I think it's the part of cider or contemporary cider making that just gets underutilized or underexplored or championed. That if you're, lots of people are wild ferment, and I totally understand that and respect that. And some of the best ciders ever made are through that process. But introducing cultured yeast gives you the opportunity to take ciders down completely different routes, and whether they be wine yeasts, which are probably more classically suited to ciders because it's fruit fermentation and used to fermenting those kinds of sugars, those fruit sugars, when you get these kind of beer yeast, saison yeast, ale yeast, they do produce completely different characters. Sometimes they feel at odds with the fruit. Sometimes they really, really work, and this is definitely one of those.
I think we can expect to see more of this, and we can expect to see more of the good stuff. So we're on to the winners, and I'm going to kick it off. Turdlinger. Or Turdlinger? Turdlinger.
Does he win just because he's got an amusing name? Is that?
Oh, it's not one. It's just, I think it's auto-corrected. I'm so sorry.
T. Durlinger. Not
T. Durlinger. I'm so sorry. Turdlinger says, I told Gabe we didn't receive the Order of Ciderology, but we did, and I've used them to level the counter. Absolute banger. Guys, what are we saying?
I mean, that's not good. That's just factually accurate. There's no, whatever. Yeah, that's just stating the obvious.
I'm gonna have to say no to that one because that suggests that the person that we got to do our counter did a bad job, and that's not true.
Yeah, fair play. No one can say your shop is bad in any way. That's a comment for any listeners in the future. So let's go on to the good stuff. Callbacks. Cider Sleuth says, unique New York, East Newark, you what? Which I think is actually Scott. That's Scott's attempt at it. So does it go with the picture? Are you guys like, or is it just a callback that's good?
I liked it. That was the other one on my list.
But like who's doing it? Like, is Jay doing it like a ventriloquist? Like, is that like an extra hard version of doing unique New York? Obviously, everybody can see me going unique New York. It's great. I don't know. I didn't get that one as much, but maybe that's just me being a sourpuss.
Well, let's move on then. So Carry Your Own said, here we see Grant and Jay demonstrate the two main approaches to cider drinking. From Grant, we have the sophisticated quaffing, using a stemmed glass, clear palate, and loving appreciation of the art of cider, a true display of the mature adult. And here we can see Jay attempting the entire bottlenecking, behavior usually constricted in a public space by those who nay taste or ID.
Yeah. That was very good. We did enjoy that.
Good.
An excellent David Attenborough voice, Martin. Well,
was quite good, actually. Yeah, very.
It's hard because it's breathy, but like he's got command as well. He's not like, oh yeah, that was, as well, I messed up at the end, but you know what? Fuck you. It's late and it's a cider podcast and I've been drinking. So, well, no, that was one that I liked, but I did think, hang on, this is about a quarter of the list here. That's a long one. It's pretty long.
It was a long.
Well, and also, I did notice that one, but I didn't like how I seem to be the sophisticated one. It's so wholly inaccurate.
No, because she's holding the bottle, isn't she? So it's like she's going, I don't need a glass. That's what it looks like.
But the behaviour usually constricted in a public space by those with nay taste or ID. That's not.
And you have a problem with someone saying that
not
that's your wife. Okay.
Yeah. They were just too complimentary of me, I think.
Well, speaking of complimentary of you, these two go together. So, Insider Japan says the name's Cook, Gabe Cook, which I'm confused about because it's not your name, but it works because you look a bit like James Bond, which is also the follow-up here, which is it IR Withers? They say even James Bond hasn't been able to get a haircut over lockdown. I don't know why I said evil. I said evil like the shop. Evil. James Bond hasn't been evil to get over lockdown. But yeah, quite a few of them. And it's been mentioned before. So, I mean, they're not complimentary of your partner, but they love that you look like James Bond.
or me.
No,
I
think they're just taking the mick out of your name. I didn't read that as they were. Yeah, I was confused with that one, but I liked that it linked to James Bond.
Well, no, but
also if James Bond,
Gabe Cook,
like, does James? I mean, I know James Bond has probably been through lockdown as well and put on a bit of weight and not had a haircut, but I mean, he's let himself go. If that's what people think, James Bond,
and he's now decided to retire and run a cider shop.
Yeah, even James Bond hasn't been able to get a haircut over lockdown. So you guys, I guess you know which James Bond I'm thinking of. Zaradol.
The one that isn't.
Obviously.
Yes. Oh God. Well, so this one hits home for me, but Where's My Cider said, you don't think cider shit really sounded like me, do you? Which I like the quiet intimacy of you being like, all drinking with your partner going like, does he really?
I know, and that and the fact that might have kept me awake at night. And I've just plucked up the courage on opening day of the shop to go, do you think it doesn't? He doesn't, does he? Does he?
Well, I'm going to choose my other wild card here that I quite liked. _the_man. You know what? The day Mr. Cook presents his next book, we'll change the shop's name into Gable. I quite like that.
Of course you do.
I like that.
It's all about me. Everything's all about me.
Do you know, I was hoping it wouldn't come up. I was hoping it wouldn't come up because what I was going to do, I was going to put an A4 piece of paper with a G on it above the shop when you do finally visit.
Well, Matthew Catchpole, how many bottles can we get through before Gabe's book turns up?
Well, quite a few probably. Like the photo that Grant shared with us of what the shelves looked like after your first opening weekend, they were pretty bare. Like, it was amazing. You got through loads.
The bookshelves were bare from the beginning. If that's what you're referencing. But
yeah, you got through loads of copies.
I know, yeah. It's not the USA, Gabe.
Shame.
Well, last but not least then, Spear Galway says, this would be better kegged, which I loved for the simplicity.
I can't, yeah. There's no way out of this now. I think and you're just perpetuating it. And I probably mentioned kegs like once or something. And
no, bollocks! Don't you try and make that a Martin problem. I've probably mentioned kegs once. Like, no, you haven't. You know you haven't. Don't try and lean away from this. Oh. You and I have both done it, but it's the fact that it's stuck with you.
That's the fact. Do you love the fact it stuck with me? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Funnily enough, we are selling cider growler refills from Keg in Able. So joke's on you, whatever your tag is, whatever your name is on Instagram. So you've not won. So fuck off.
And
thanks for listening,
David Brent there. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Oh, I do David Brent once. And
it's going to stick.
Better.
Now serving on Keg.
Well, you've got the laugh, so that's...
Rapidly moving things back to the cider for one final time here.
I think this is great. Genuinely, it's one of those ciders where I could smash loads of these. And what's worrying is the ABV. Now, is it for everyone? No. Is it trying to be for everyone? No. I think I could persuade some beer drinkers onto the sour side of things into cider with this, because the acidity and the booze are well integrated. It doesn't stand out in harsh angles like a lot of death metal does. I think it's actually quite an interesting amount of balance. But I mean, it's immediately standoffish on the packaging. I like that, but also I like that genre of music. So, I mean, I'm in that limited cider circle.
There we go. A fantastic cider. There's nothing worse than a boring or middling cider, and it's certainly not that. As you said, Martin, it's not going to be for everybody, but there's some real complexity and there's some real balance and some interesting things going on there, and just love the experimental nature of things. And so here at the Democratic Neutral Cider Hotel, we think that Andrew Masura has the best, funniest, and most engaging and insightful post. Well done, Andrew, for highlighting the joys and indeed the humour that can be derived from cider tax. Who knew?
Who knew indeed?
Who knew indeed. Big thanks to Ascension Cider for producing a really interesting and obviously a thought-provoking cider, certainly. And this wraps up the show. So big thanks to Jane Peyton as well for joining us and for having a great chat. It really did feel like being down the pub. And thank you, our dear listeners, for listening to our Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. And if you want to help us, then please do spread the word. Tell your friends and encourage them to listen. And you can also follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast app. It really, 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 really does help. And please find and follow us on social media. We are at Neutral Cider Hotel on Insta and Facebook, Neutral Cider Pod on Twitter. And as always, you can visit us on our website to listen online or share episodes at neutralciderhotel.com. And last but not least, please do reach out. We say every week, come and have a chat. We love it. Leave us a voicemail message with all of your questions or comments at speakpipe.com/Neutral Cider Hotel. Gentlemen, until next week, it's been a pleasure again. Love it. Thank you.